Hello there, Lunar Squadron, and welcome back to the channel. If you joined us a few days ago, you will know that we went into the brand new Marvel.com article, the interview with Bryan Intihar, and we broke down all of the brand new customization details that he revealed in this interview. Now, this interview that he had with Marvel.com was incredibly lengthy, and it provided so many great new details about multiple different aspects of Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and today we want to talk about some more of the aspects from this interview, some aspects that not a whole lot of people are talking about that we think provide some great insights into the story and the direction that Insomniac is taking their story in Marvel Spider-Man 2, and we're going to talk about all of those details today. But first, if you're new to the channel, we would love to have you as always, and the way to do that is just go down below this video, hit that little subscribe button, the bell notification right on next to it. It will notify you every single time that Andreas and I upload. Also, if you've not yet joined our Discord, we've had a bunch of you join over the last few days, and it has been great to just see new faces in our Discord server. It's a great place for you guys to get to know us better, a great place for us to get to know you better. We talk about all kinds of different things. We really have a lot of fun in there, so you should consider joining our server. Link to join that will be down below in the description. Now, with all this out of the way, Andreas, let's talk about the story details from this interview. All right, Andreas, so like I said in the intro, this interview, this article with Marvel.com and Bryan Intihar provided so many great details, very extensive information about multiple aspects of Marvel Spider-Man 2. We got customization details, we got some gameplay details, and we got some new story details. So instead of packing it all into one video and not being able to really flush out all of these details, we wanted to dedicate a video to each individual topic to make sure that we're really flushing out what we're getting here. And today, I want to talk about the story details that he provided, because I think it provides a lot of insight into the headspace of Insomniac and provides a lot of insight as to what we could possibly expect.
I totally agree. This is a conversation that we've been having on this channel for the last couple of weeks now, and that is, who is going to be Venom? Who is going to be the big bad in this story? How is this story going to play out based on the seeds that were laid both in Spider-Man 1 and in Miles Morales, and what is the general outline of the main story points that we can come to expect heading into Spider-Man 2 based on the things that we've seen in trailers and otherwise. And so now we're just getting an additional data point to factor into that discussion as we think about how this whole thing is going to play out leading up to this hype train into the game. And this article, specifically this particular section of the article, really does play into that. It really starts with this question from Marvel, which asks, we have villains, so we know we'll see Lizard and Kraven in the game. Can you give us some info on our boy Sergei Kravenov, of who he is and what he's doing in the game design, and particularly because we got new art. There's his crew that we see in the game, and there's that one dude in the back, I like him, the big weird dude. It's a little weird question, but essentially they're asking about Sergei Kravenov, and Bryan Intihar gives us some great information on Kraven and his involvement in the overall construction of the story of this game. Bryan says, yeah, first of all, even picking Kraven he originally wasn't in the game. Very early on, when you asked me, back when we were talking, he actually wasn't in the game. And then we were thinking about the kind of story we want to tell, how we wanted to push Peter and Miles in places they may not be as comfortable with. And not to mention, we knew we were going to do Lizard. We knew we were going to do Venom. And we're like, what's a character that can kind of push everybody and push the story into a different direction? And we were like, Kraven. So this is really interesting when we're talking about this discussion of who is really the big bad of this game. And now, while the fact that Kraven might not have been in the original outline of main story points for this game, that doesn't necessarily mean that he can't be the big bad, but it definitely seems to reinforce that he is the beginning villain of this game who's going to push the narrative forward, but that narrative is going to lead in an ultimate direction that is perhaps away from this character, perhaps in the lap of another bigger and badder villain, perhaps Venom here. My reading of this does seem to be that that they were dead set on Lizard being in this story. They were dead set on Venom being in this story, but that Kraven was almost an afterthought. And that's just really interesting to me, just as we're trying to figure out who's pulling the strings here.
The reason I wanted to have this conversation and make this video is because I wanted to sit with this information for a few days and just kind of analyze my thoughts on it. And it sounds like to me that Kraven is here more as a secondary character to help push the narrative forward, and it provides that data point of, hey, we're really pointing towards Venom being one of the main, if not the main bad guy of this game, because I still don't think it could be Lizard. I don't think he's a viable candidate. But, I mean, if you think about it, they sat down and they had the overall direction they wanted to take their game, the way they wanted their story to go, and then they were looking for an additional character that could help push Peter and Miles just a little bit further than the story was able to at the moment, and that's when they landed on Kraven. So what I'm taking away from this is, when they sat down to write this game and they were going through that whole process and all of the pre-production work, Kraven was not who they were building this story around. And I just don't see a way where Kraven turns out to be the main villain of this game when originally you weren't writing the story around him. You brought him in later on into the process. You knew you were doing Lizard to help drive the whole symbiote Harry 6 storyline, and you knew you were doing Venom. And that's what they've been setting up for a few games. So with all of this information, it might actually be Venom. I think this is pretty big information here and pretty big insight into where the story's probably going to go.
You know, I think leading into this conversation that we've been having over the last couple of weeks, there's just been this ominous lurking presence in the background that has been the Insomniac signature. It is that we almost expect Insomniac to be pulling the rug from under us. We expect Insomniac to have that plot twist. And it almost is hard to believe that when we got the reveal trailer for Spider-Man 2, and the ultimate reveal at the end of that trailer was that Venom is going to be the villain in this game, we almost didn't believe our eyes. We almost thought, oh, this is too easy. This is just, Insomniac is just spelling it out for us, and that cannot be the case. And so we thought, maybe there's something else to it. And maybe there's someone else pulling the strings. Maybe there's someone else in charge. And we naturally, our conversations led to multiple candidates, whether it be Kraven himself, whether it be Norman Osborn. And I think as we get more and more data points, I am starting to wonder here, is it just Venom all along? And is Kraven really just that early stage villain that is pushing this story forward? And I just don't really know what data to trust at this point, because I am expecting Insomniac to pull the rug under us. I mean, look at this recent trailer that we received, the release date trailer, where it begins with showing a different character, and everybody's expecting that character is going to be Kraven. And then even in the reveal of Kraven, they shift the camera to somebody else who is Kraven. And so it's Insomniac just keeps on pulling the rug and pulling the rug. And so it's become their signature at this point in time. And so it's like we're coming to expect that kind of thing from this story. And so I'm having, even when I'm seeing all this data, even when I'm seeing Bryan Intihar saying actively like, oh yeah, Kraven was an afterthought to this story, I'm still wondering, is there another twist to the tale here? Is there something that is going to be unexpected? And I am noticing particularly some silence when it comes to talking about Norman Osborn. Like, I feel like he's not really touching on that very much, but as we've talked in recent videos, we're thinking that might be a thing that they hold off on until a Spider-Man 3 type game. But I'm a little suspicious here still. I know like this kind of does lean into the theory that Venom is the big bad, but I'm still a little suspicious, Nick.
The last thing I want to just add before we get out of here, I just want to read through this other paragraph where he says, I'm a big Kraven fan. I just think he's such an interesting character because he doesn't have like magical powers. He's not like magic based. He's not like full of tech. He's a hunter. Obviously he's powerful and strong, but he's smart. Also, I thought his story could be probably like much more psychological than maybe some of our other characters we've done in the past. And that cinematic that we showed really kind of tells you what he's looking for. Kraven is looking for an equal. He's looking for somebody who's going to really challenge him. And you could tell he's frustrated with his crew, and his crew are basically hunters. He's recruited from all over the world, the best of the best, and he's asking for their help to find an equal. So We knew already that Kraven is going into New York City looking for an eagle. We've already talked about this, but this right here, especially the early portion of this paragraph, just provides a couple additional details about who Kraven is and what Insomniac is trying to do with him, how he's not full of tech, he's not magic based like a Mysterio type or like a Doctor Strange type. He doesn't have magic or powers. He's just very strong, he's very smart, and he's very tactical. And it provides a new challenge for Spider-Man, for both Peter and Miles to take on just a different type of villain. So I really do think, just to wrap this all up, that this really, again, is just another data point that provides that maybe Kraven isn't as, I guess, important as we thought he was, and that means the Venom is significantly more important to the story, and Venom turns out to be the big bad of this game, because I think there's so much potential for that character in this universe, and I would love to see him finally realize that true potential here with Insomniac.
Well, there you have it, guys. I mean, what do you think now that you've seen this data and you've seen, you know, Bryan Intihar's unique new perspective on the introduction and involvement of Kraven in the storyline? Do you does this change what you might have expected for this character beforehand? Are you thinking that maybe before, whereas you would have expected someone of Kraven's talents to be pulling the strings, given, you know, how smart and tactical he is, are you now thinking maybe he's just pushing things forward and it'll ultimately end up in a different direction and he'll be maybe dispensed with early on in this story and we'll pass the torch to another bigger, badder villain? I mean, I'd love to hear what all of you have to say about this. This makes for a really great discussion. I'm glad that we were able to have this discussion today, so thank you all for joining in on it. However, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, we will see you all next time.